Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, social marketers around the world. My name is Win Morgan, and as president of the International Social Marketing Association, it is both my privilege and pleasure to introduce the 16th in a series of webinars designed to advance social marketing, teaching, research, and practice. Our moderators today who are joining me are Jay Cassirer and Tamara Harbour. Jay is our organizer of the webinar series and chair of our ISMA membership committee of the board of directors, and Tamara is our coordinator for this webinar series. Hi Jay, hi Tamara, how are you today?
Hello everyone.
Okay.
Hello.
Great to have you here. Now, let's begin in just a minute. Before we do, I'd like to remind you of a couple of member benefits that you may not know about or you may have forgotten about that are provided through the International Social Marketing Association. First of all, I think you should know that there are now more than 30 recorded webinars, that's two versions of each of 15, that are in our archives that you can go back through and you can listen to and watch, actually, including Changing Behaviors to Scale Up Rural Sanitation, Lives Worth Living, Corporate Social Marketing with Nancy Lee. Nancy, I see, is here, and more. So remember to go to the ISMA website, go to webinars, and go to the archives, and you can listen and watch to your heart's content. Also, you may or may not know that we have a packed event calendar now on our ISMA website. It is the only event calendar for social marketing online as of now, and it has more than 50 different events that are upcoming. So if you haven't looked at our event calendar lately, you really should go to i-socialmarketing.org and go to the event calendar and see what's up. Are you looking to hire someone for social marketing, or are you looking to be hired as a marketer? We now have an improved job board where you can post a job or you can post your resume anonymously, and you can create your own job alerts. Just go to our issocialmarketing.org website and just click on our job board, and that'll take you right to there. Looks a lot better than it did before. We thank our partners who've been working on that at Job Market. And also, we have a news desk where people like opinion leaders such as Craig LaFay are writing about the latest news and their opinions on it. And also, if you want to know the latest news that's coming in relevant to social marketing, we have a news feed collector for social marketing right on our site. Just go to i-socialmarketing.org, click on news and news feeds, and you'll get all the news that you want on social marketing. So now I'd like to turn over to Jay Cassirer and Tamara, our moderators. Jay?
Thank you, Win, and welcome everyone. I want to remind you that if you have more than one at your location, we would appreciate it if you'd let us know how many you are using the chat box, and I'll type in a little note like that as well just to remind you all. That's the only way we know how many are in the room with you and can count up participation. Also, please ask questions using the text box as they come to you. Don't wait until the end of Who Does Talk. She'll answer your questions at the end in roughly the same order as they come in during the webinar. I would like to find out a few things here. Let me see if they're relevant because we know the group pretty well today. How did you find out about this webinar? Well, we'll go ahead and open it. I think I know what's going to happen, but can you go ahead and answer this one? And okay, right. So we've got people who are, someone found out about it from LinkedIn and Twitter. Yes, okay, great. And we have one more poll here for you. Which area of the world are you connecting from? I know two of the groups, well, most of the groups, but not all of them. So just to be sure here, and people can just click And we'll skip to the results. Other, why didn't you include it? So perhaps the person who's from another area could go ahead and send us a message.
That would be me. I'm from
Our
Washington,
chairman
D.C.,
from
which
Washington,
is it's a developing country.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and I guess with that, I think we're ready to proceed on. Then I'll turn it over to you, Tamara, to introduce Huda.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Today, I'm happy to introduce Huda Chaim as our webinar speaker. Huda Chaim has 18 years of experience as a program manager and social marketing professional. And although her background includes a master's equivalent degree in business management and a certificate in social marketing from Georgetown University, she is continuing her education by pursuing a master's in development management in the UK. Her expertise in the field covers strategic design, management, and implementation of family planning, HIV/AIDS, malaria, and environment programs in North and West Africa and the Middle East. In addition, she has considerable experience in interacting with USAID missions and UN agencies such as WHO and UNDP. Currently, Huda is involved with JCAP, which is the Jordan Communication, Advocacy, and Policy Project. This is a 5-year, $30 million USAID-funded project, and in her role as the Deputy Chief of Party, Huda provides technical leadership in a program that aims to increase demand for modern family planning methods. So Huda will be talking to us today about creating an enabling environment for a bold family planning campaign through effective co-creation strategies. So we're looking forward to hearing you speak about this, Huda, and this is a very interesting program and hearing how effective it's been and everything that went into making it successful. So welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Win and Jay, and thank you all for joining us today. So this is a good evening, actually, from a flooded Jordan, and Amman in particular, which makes it even more exciting to be sitting and talking about our experience in family planning in this country in these weather circumstances. So I am thrilled to tell you about a Jordanian story, a journey of social marketing full of drama and suspense, but with a happy ending. Before that, I would like to give you a few words about USAID SHOPS project. SHOPS project stands for Strengthening Health Outcomes through the Private Sector, and it was successfully implemented by APT Associates during 5 years until September 2015. In Jordan, its primary focus was on increasing use of family planning with both service delivery and demand generation components. I had the pleasure to serve as the social marketing manager in their shops for 4 years before I moved to the USAID JCAP project. Before moving forward, I would like to turn it over to Win with our first quiz. Win?
Right. Well, we always like to have little games and quizzes as we go along so that it keeps everybody engaged. And so I would like you to take a look now at this picture that you see. And we're going to ask you if you can correctly identify it. And if you can, we will be sending you an electronic candy. Okay. Now, what is that picture? What is the name of that historic place in the previous slide? Now just click on to see where it is. Okay, someone's saying, ask Indiana Jones, he knows. Oh, do we have anybody who says Pueblo? Yes, I think we do. And the results are Petra. It is. Oh, but also ask Indiana Jones, he knows. I guess we decided is also correct. Is that true?
Yes,
Huda?
that's true. Yes, absolutely. Indiana Jones knows Petra. Thank you all for participating. Yes. So let's move now to a little more serious topic, that is the demographic context in Jordan. Jordan is a small country, and it has very limited natural resources. The economic situation is also problematic, and the political unrest in the region is everybody's aware of it. For example, it is the fourth country in the world when it comes to water resources. Employment opportunities are scarce, and youth struggle to find jobs. There is we can also notice that there is an economic migration from youth in Jordan towards other more prosperous countries like the Emirates or Saudi Arabia. So they try to find jobs elsewhere. Jordan was already facing a challenging natural population growth before 2011. So you could see it's 2.2%, but starting 2011, there was a massive influx of Syrian refugees that started. As it's difficult to get a precise number, and they are currently estimated at 1.4 million, among 2.5 million of other non-Jordanians, including Iraqi and Yemeni refugees, and also economic migrants from Egypt. The other remarkable demographic element in this picture is the youth bulge that represents almost 1/3 of the whole population, with the implications we can imagine in terms of education and employment needs. Now, talking about demographic pressure, we think about population growth, so the purpose would be to reduce fertility rate. The fertility rate in this context, slowing the population growth is key and is relying on lowering the fertility rate. Here we see that after a dramatic decrease from an average of 7.5 children per married woman in 1976 to 3.7 children in 2002, it remained stagnant until 2012 at around 3.5. This fertility rate is considered high versus country limited resources and economic situation. Moving forward, we're talking fertility, so we come to contraceptive prevalence. The contraceptive prevalence in Jordan has also improved. It comes up to 61% in 2012, but modern methods contraceptive prevalence rate remains flat. You have this line here, like this blocked ceiling at 42%, whereas traditional method CPR increased from 15% to 19% in 2012. You may ask, okay, what would be the problem? Both are contraceptive methods. The problem is that traditional methods are much less effective than modern methods. So for those who are not familiar with family planning, methods, contraceptives, I would give you some example of modern methods. Oral contraceptive pills, in short, OCPs. I will use some jargon here. I'd like you to bear with me, and please feel free to ask questions as I'm speaking so I can clarify. We also have intrauterine devices, IUDs, implants, injectables, condoms, and so forth. Traditional methods, those that are used in Jordan, are withdrawal or periodic abstinence. The second issue we have is that traditional methods that are less effective are religiously supported. Withdrawal is reported by religious leaders in a majority Muslim country. We also have a Christian community in Jordan, that the method of withdrawal was used by the Prophet. The third, which I would personally consider the main also issue, is that they are perceived, traditional methods, as being as effective as modern methods and safer. So this is about the problematic that we have. So why did we go for an intrauterine device, IUD, campaign? First, it's a highly effective contraception that provides a very long-term protection. Its effectiveness is up to 95%, 98% for hormonal IUDs, and its protection can last up to 12 years. But women lack this knowledge, as they lack reassurance that this method is safe and that they can get pregnant anytime after removing it. I will come back later about this point and rooted, even sacred concept of fertility in Jordan. Second, though it is the most popular contraceptive in Jordan, it is still used as a medium term to I would say even short-term method, as the discontinuation rate, the percentage of women who started using the IUD, who removed it after 1 year, is almost 19% for a method that can last up to 12 years. Third, on the supply side, the service is largely available to trained providers in public, private, and NGO clinics. So having all this in place, we decided to launch an IUD social marketing campaign. Now, easier said than done. When we started discussing the concept with our main counterparts, the Ministry of Health and the Higher Population Council, we had to face very skeptical expressions and frowning faces, telling us basically that we were going to use mass media advertising, TV, radio, gather people in the community in such a conservative society to talk about a device that is inserted in women's womb. But as they also know about the challenges of Jordan, and they also know that this is a critical issue if they want to achieve Jordan development goals, they asked the question of how we were thinking about doing that. And we answered together. So we created a campaign technical committee, including stakeholders from these institutions, and we asked them to have some faith and sense of adventure. What you see here in the colors are the blue are the government institutions. Down there, purple are the private sector partners. In the middle, we have the main association in Jordan providing family planning services, JAFBP, and we have UNRWA, that is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, and it's actually a unique UN agency that is based in Jordan and helps Palestinians that are still in Palestinian camps. So where did we go with this group, this committee for the campaign? We had weekly working sessions with the committee members to design and review each stage of the campaign development that you see here in the circle, and ensure also coordination for the supply side with the Ministry of Health that is actually supplying not only public health sectors, but also NGO clinics, and make sure that they are packed with IUDs, and that the doctors of all public health centers and in the clinics were ready to welcome ladies that we were forecasting to show up to demand for IUD services. I would like to give you here an insight about the NGO members. They brought very interesting insight from the real perspective of civil society. They were promoting family planning as a basic human right, which is actually an angle that we're still missing in our family planning campaigns. USAID, to mention USAID, has been investing for decades. It's been almost 30 years that we're working in family planning. My personal feeling is that we tend to take it we see it as a given, and it's still, in many countries, something that we should still advocate for as a basic human right. So they were the actors to do that, and I can say that they were allies in some bold creative decisions we were going to make. So the materials were discussed, pre-tested, and the discussion of the campaign strategy was going on with the groups. And we had here in the pre-testing phase focus groups that helped revealing potential communication obstacles and help us shape up effective interventions, especially at the community level. Let me add a last thing on this slide. The value that we had for this co-creation, the value of exchanging and engaging these stakeholders, not only helped them and helped us have them build ownership of this campaign that started on a very sensitive and skeptical basis, but it was also an educational and advocacy process to demonstrate the capacity of social marketing to address most sensitive issues in an effective and culturally appropriate manner. So let's move now to our audiences. Secondary review, primary research informed us on the target group's stage of change that were mostly on the range from contemplation, preparation to action. We also had a market segmentation study that provided insight on the specific motivations and obstacles of the targeted subgroups. We conducted these focus group discussions in urban and rural areas to explore and identify in-depth psychological, sociological, and cultural factors affecting the use of modern FB methods among Jordanian married women in reproductive age. So we came up with these 3 segments that we branded somehow, starting with the newlyweds, having the active childbearing and the limiters. And as you could guess, it's more a life cycle segmentation. Let's start with the newlyweds. Who are they? They are young. They are even very young. They have no more than 1 child, and they wish to delay for a minimum of 3 years. But let me just stop here for a second. They want to delay after the first child. Because here, the issue we have and the challenge is that talking to newlyweds about spacing their first birth was almost a no-go. And we can see we only have 25% using the modern method, and this is mostly, and it happens after the first child, and we have 73% of non-users ever. Women in this segment face a lot of pressure to demonstrate their fertility within the first few months of marriage. And there is a strong belief that if they use a modern method before proving their fertility, there would be a harm on their fertility. They might lose it. However, they are very interested in knowing more. They don't have knowledge about family planning methods. And this is mostly among the youngest crowd. Regarding the fertility, I would like you to keep focus on these 3 segments because this is the main recurrent determinant that we have across all age groups, across all even socioeconomic status. I will move now to the active childbearing. The active childbearing are their elders. They're up to 32 years. They have up to 3 children for almost 80% of them. And even if they have for almost 80% up to 3 children, they still think about just spacing. The concept of limiting is not there yet. 41% use a modern method, and we have 44% who never ever used any method. Women in this segment still face strong pressure to have more children, although to a lesser extent than women in the previous segment. And there is a preference for male children, which is part of the social norms in Jordan, that further adds to this pressure. Their major concern about modern family planning methods is not that much about fertility here, though it's still, they want to keep it in mind, but it's that there are health risks that can be associated with hormonal methods and method reliability they could be afraid of. Despite these concerns, they appreciate the benefits of spacing on their lifestyles, on their well-being, and they are keen on obtaining more knowledge and counseling, especially through their peers. Okay, I have been moving too fast. Okay, the limiters. Now we start talking limiters, though as you will see, the concept of limiting is still theoretical. They are above 32 years and they have 5 children on average. They say they don't want any more children. However, they still want to feel that they can have children whenever it might occur in their mind, or just the idea. So it's more a psychological factor here. And the return to fertility, as we discovered after analyzing the 3 segments, is across the line. It's an important element that we have to keep in mind. Despite this high parity, we only have 50% of women in this segment who are using modern family planning. And importantly, there is an estimated 28%, almost 1/3, that had never used a modern method. And we're here in a segment of women who have up to 5 children and think about limiting. Women in this segment still prefer to think of family planning as a way to space or delay pregnancies. even though they say they don't want more children. And they share the same issues about modern family planning methods related to hormonal methods than those in the previous segments. There is a general concern over the risk, however, of having late pregnancies, on unhealthy babies, on their own health, and they are also highly aware of the financial implications of having a large family. Well, they have the experience now, they have the children, and so they know about the economic burden that this can be. Let's move to, after the audience analysis, the concept design and what we were discussing with our committee members. So what was the social offering here? The campaign offered access to a safe, highly effective contraceptive method, along with an access to high-quality services from public, NGO, and private sectors. The promise of quality services was supported on the private sector and also the public sector and NGO sector by a quality seal that you can see here down on the right, that circle with this nice green and blue heart. And it was also mass media advertised. So you can see that we had a branding strategy on the providers. The concept here focused on the end benefit. I think there is a pitfall when we talk and we communicate about family planning. We put it at the health level only. And you see our counterparts are Ministry of Health and Higher Population Council. But it's not only about health. What we're selling, if I may use this word, to a woman using a long-term method is time. So we help this lady have more quality time. Now, the contradiction comes with what would she do with this time? Something enhancing. What about her social status as something different than a respected, valued, and admired mother of 5 children? And you will see our approach in our campaign is that we try to find this trade-off and help her understand that having this time would make her happier, not only healthier, that's a given, but happier with her family, and also time for her to be able to work and get to a different kind of status. At the materials development stage, we opted for a feel-good, aspirational tone, and I think I've said it enough. This is my broken record. We included the return to fertility as a key message across all campaign materials, including mass media. The project negotiated reduced price with a network of private and NGO providers. When we did the research and the focus groups, we identified non-monetary barriers, such as the embarrassment and the discomfort in discussing a sensitive topic like family planning, especially an intimate method such as an IUD, and we also discovered that women desired a female provider for the IUD in particular. Many women using the public sector faced an additional cost barrier such as long waiting times and lack of proper counseling and sometimes poor quality services. Fortunately, we had the Ministry of Health on board, and we asked the ministry, and they responded in terms of improving the overall quality of the service at the public health centers, including quality of counseling and the IUD service provision. They also allowed, and this was a premiere, midwives to provide IUD service to compensate for the lack of female doctors. Now, we are having a movie break. We are going to show you 2 TV spots. And I would like you to give a special attention and a close watch to the TV spots. As you see the question, to tell us what groundbreaking elements you found in them.
I guess everybody has a different idea of what's groundbreaking, isn't it, Huda? So it'd be interesting to hear what people think of from their own point of view, what they think was groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm. So let's start with the first one.
عائلتك سر سعادتك. ولأنك مقتنعة إنه تنظيم الأسرة خطوة مهمة في الحفاظ على صحتهم وسعادتهم، استخدمي اللولب.
اللولب وسيلة آمنة وفعالة للغاية. هناك الكثير من الكوادر المؤهلة لتقدم لك خدمة تركيب اللولب بجودة عالية في كافة مراكز وعيادات وزارة الصحة وعيادات الجمعية الأردنية لتنظيم وحماية الأسرة وعيادات الأونروا وعيادات القطاع الخاص. لتنظيم أسرتك استخدمي اللولب لأنه آمن وفعال وبتدوم فعاليته لغاية 12 سنة ويمكنك الحمل بعد إزالته.
So I will move to the second one. Sorry.
أحلامنا لأولادنا كبيرة مهما كانت الإمكانيات. بعد ما إجت منى قررت أرجع أشتغل، فصار عندي مسؤوليات ما بتتحمل مفاجآت. عشان هيك أنا استخدمت اللولب.
اللولب وسيلة آمنة وفعالة للغاية، المهم إنكم تخططوا وتقرروا شو الأنسب إلكم ولعائلتكم.
وبيوم من الأيام رح أفصل لك يا ماما أحلى فستان تخرج.
لتنظيم أسرتك استخدمي اللولب لأنه آمن وفعال وبتدوم فعاليته لغاية 12 سنة.
Great. When maybe you could help us orient our participants on how they could respond to the question.
Yeah, if you just type in the chat box, folks, I know you're out there. What did you find intriguing or groundbreaking in these television spots? Or if you found nothing, or you don't find anything groundbreaking, just let us know as well. Just, we got one person saying, yeah, you can just go ahead and
That's a
type
good
it
start.
in. We'll say it anonymously. We'll say it anonymously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, no worries.
while people are typing in, I'll say one of the things that I noticed for me is that there was a woman at a football game. Is that something that happens in Jordan?
It does happen. Yes, when I know it sounds, yeah, like, but women here are pretty much on soccer and football. You should have seen the ambiance here everywhere last year for the World Cup. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have someone else here that says that they find it interesting that in the first ad, that males were involved in the process rather than females only. It seemed to be a couple's decision. Is that true? Is that what happened?
You said, I see the question is that there is a male voice, the voice of, right? The voice telling the story in the spots.
Oh, yeah.
And the question why a male voice, yes, versus female. Well, there is also a nuance there that is very interesting. It's very, very interesting. When we ask women about and it's very gender sensitive, but when we ask them about whom do they think were most, best performing for IUD insertions and in general, they would say male doctors. They are stronger, whatever. But for the IUD, we would go with the female. And when we pre-tested, actually, we thought about this, and women felt that a male voice poised like this, talking about clinics and medical services in general, was more credible. But it's a good point, definitely.
And one of our participants says that they found it interesting that in the first ad that males were involved in the process rather than females only. It seemed to be a couple's decision. Is that unusual in Jordan?
It's actually what we're promoting. And we want to make family planning a couple decision. And we had very recent research showing that it is, for the majority, a couple decision. So we were happy with this result. And we showed, which is actually less happening, this is still an ideal picture of the husband going with his wife to the clinic and asking for counseling and choosing the method. Because the husband's involvement comes at just the decision of using or not using, of practicing family planning. When it comes to the method itself, it's a women's thing. The husband would say it's none of my business.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of our participants says that they didn't notice anything that was groundbreaking for them, but they were wondering if social or mobile would be more effective and less costly for reaching the younger segments. And was it considered? And I do remember that you actually do have a Facebook
Yes.
It's doing quite well, right?
Yes. With Undershops, we started the Facebook page that is still running, that we're maintaining, reaching after 1 year and a half, 25,000 likes. So it's pretty good for a country here like Jordan with this size. And under JCAP, and I'm carrying on actually this legacy, and we're moving with mobile-based and digital applications on mobile, using also YouTube. We're having contests with NGOs, youth NGOs. So we're targeting even younger segments and being more upfront with the non-married for premarital and preconception care. So this is, yes, considered now.
Okay, so what's the answer? What was the groundbreaking thing that appears in both of these television spots that we can't figure out?
So I'm very happy that actually nobody could find out, because it shows how the different, cultural background and perspectives can show here. The groundbreaker was that we, for the first time in the history of advertising in Jordan, we showed an IUD. If you remember here, this was even the first picture.
Oh.
You have a hand handling an IUD.
Oh, right.
So this was, sorry,
أحلامنا لو
I don't know how we can do that. Just get back on the first picture.
Oh, we can't do that. No,
The first screen that shows the IUD. So I can tell you, it took us maybe 3 rounds, meetings of discussion, and it was like the Senate. It was parties that were pro and cons, and we cannot do that, and this is totally unacceptable, because remember, we're showing a device that is inserted under medical procedure in a woman's uterus, and we are in Muslim majority country with a very, very conservative environment. We heard feedback from, close people that say, oh, I'm not sure I would be able to stand, sit beside my father on the couch if this is on TV. I would just leave the room. We have this kind of taboo that were still there, and we could break it. And the other thing is that we also showed the size of the IUD. That was not, people thought it was much bigger. So I'm moving here. I'm running out of time already. The mass media, the home visits, the media-trained doctors on TV, the community entertaining lectures, the Facebook page. We had a strong multi-component implementation plan. The home visit, the household program is a whole program in itself, because it's not only tied to a campaign, it goes all over the year, and we reach over 200,000 women on a yearly basis. The key insight that drove the campaign is, again, the key messages about safety, effectiveness, and using the doctors as a credible source. On TV, we media-trained telegenic doctors that were on TV, female mostly, but we could have some male. And we were using the doctors in the community lectures. Edutaining stands for educational and entertaining. So we had female doctors coming to the field, sitting with ladies. We had rooms packed with over 100 women, and telling them and talking to them in depth about all these fears and misconceptions they could have about the IUD. So, coming now to the hour of truth and the monitoring and evaluation. So, we defined behavior change objectives that I will show you in the next slide for the campaign, and including reach indicators for community-based components, but also outcomes indicators for the community-based. For example, when a woman received a counseling and received a voucher or a referral to go to any clinic, she was tracked. So we could see how the campaign was doing, even to the level of the practice of the use of the IUD. The results I'm going to show you later on are based on a post-tracking survey that was conducted to evaluate reach, message recall, and campaign effectiveness. So let's move to the behavioral, no, not this one yet. The behavioral objectives, here you can see we focused on knowledge, making sure that the knowledge is correct about safety, effectiveness, the duration of protection, and that it doesn't harm fertility. And we also focused on knowledge about where service is available. We have a strong supply side, strong access to services, and we promoted it, as you could see in the first slide, with speaking about each type of clinics they could find. The intention, we were hoping to reach 60% of audience intending to use an IUD and reaching up to 5% increase of the IUD insertions. So now,
the period of the campaign?
the period was 4 months.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We had a 4-month period, yes. So we have another entertaining break when this baby is, I think he doesn't like it, or she, or she, but this baby keeps skipping.
We're short on
break.
time, so baby said
Okay,
it's gonna wait.
Okay, so let's go directly on the behavioral outcomes. So here you can see two colors, the green and the blue. The green bars are the non-exposed audience, whereas the blue bars are those who are exposed. The non-exposed are those who haven't seen at least one of 3 campaign elements that we showed: spots, TV spots, brochures, and newspaper clippings. We had snapshots, but those who responded that they have seen at least one of these elements were considered exposed. So I think I should just keep silent and let you admire, right, Wen? So this was what we could achieve through the campaign, having these differences being statistically significant. And you see here the most interesting one, and the gap between exposed and non-exposed is on the intention to use, which is a great shift in the needle towards use. We also had a good number, a good percentage, knowing where the service is available. Let me go straight to the use itself and what we could track at our private doctor's clinic. So here, I know this graph might be a bit difficult to conceptually. We have here compared the year-to-year monthly comparison of the IUD insertions at the private network doctors during the campaign months that are in blue, compared to the same months the year before. The campaign started on November 1 here. You see the red arrow. And we had, compared to the months before, the year before, 36% increase. Whereas in October, there was no campaign, and the increase was 6%. We have a slight decrease here in December of 16%. And as today, because of the flood, nobody goes to work. In December, it was snowing, and we had 10 days where everybody was blocked at home. I'm not saying this is the reason. This is just an assumption that we like to believe to justify the 16%. So let's go to national statistics. And we have the national statistics from the Ministry of Health giving us the national couples year protection. I hope I will have time to explain during the questions. So you can see here that there was a clear shift in the decline in the curve regarding the CYP, the couple years protection for the IUD, since the beginning of the campaign. I have to just pause here and say that though it's not possible to affirm causality, direct relationship causality between these results and the campaign, it's important to note that no other campaigns were on air about the IUD during the 2 previous years, and no major changes in service provision were noted in health facilities. So we cannot say there is causality, but we can say there is correlation. So finally, the learnings. The first one, we're talking sensitive topic, taboo. We had this discussion about showing, not showing an IUD. When you involve the country stakeholders since the very, very beginning of the design of the campaign, there is ownership, there is constituency. They get excited about it, they learn about it, and they defend it. You have your strongest advocates. The second point is using research again and again is a sound basis to convince your own stakeholders and reduce potential resistance. When we pre-tested with the IUD, showing the IUD, and nothing came back from the pre-test, they were convinced. Third, get the doctors out of their clinics and put them in the field. When the doctor is out, he is mingling with the population, he is the credible voice, and he gets more I would say, humane. He's not in his white collar, in his clinic, behind the desk. And the message impact is much higher. And last but not least, remember, we're all social marketers, and we deal and we work with people who are not social marketers. So all these findings, all the results of what we're doing, all these practice cases should be used as advocacy ammunition and materials to help advocate for social marketing and behavior change campaigns. Thank you all for your attention, and sorry if we're a bit long on the spot side part, and I would be very happy to answer your questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Huda. And don't worry about the time. You came in right on time. And we do have 10 minutes for some Q&A. And I know that was a very engaging and interesting topic and showing us how all the different pieces of this campaign came together. We do have a question for you from Michael Basil, who says that there's lots of focus on knowledge, and that's fine. But were there any Ps used? What was the price of the IUD, or the cost of insertion, or was the cost of insertion subsidized, and were customers made aware of this price factor? So that's certainly one of the Ps he's looking at is price, but if you can kind of give us an overview of how you looked at the 4 Ps as you were putting this together.
Sure. The first P, the product. So we focused on the IUD, the Copper T CU380A. This was the public sector IUD, and this was the IUD that the public sector, the ministry, was providing free to JFPP, Jordanian Association for Family Planning and Protection, and to the network doctors. So I think here, just to a quick parenthesis of public-private partnership, this was pretty awesome because the public sector was helping and subsidizing the private sector to work for the cause. The second part, the P of price, so the IUD was free of charge at the Ministry of Health. It was at a negotiated price of, it's 10 JD, the insertion, 10 Jordanian dinars, which makes it in dollars, US dollars, 15 US dollars at the private doctors, the network. At the Class A OBGYN private sector who are using other types of IUD, the price could go up to 40 or 50 Jordanian dinars. At the NGOs, JFPP was providing the IUD insertion at 7.5 JD, which is around 11 US dollars. The women who were visited, the household visits, they had vouchers to get a free service, and the voucher was to drive them to the private sector, to private network doctors. So they were giving the IUD, women were getting the service, the voucher to get the service for free, and the project, it was subsidized. The project was giving the doctor 10 JD.
Okay, and unless we hear from Michael, I'll assume that answers his question. And I have a question of whether there'll be tracking of some kind to see if the uptake in the use of IUDs actually leads to a reduction in the fertility rate. How are you handling that going forward?
This is a broader topic because the measure of TFR is usually done every 5 years through the demographic and health surveys that take place in many countries and in Jordan too. So we are currently continuing the effort through JCAP to increase use of modern FP in general with a focus on long-term acting methods, reversible methods like the IUD. The next DHS should take place in 2017, and this is where we will have the proper country representative results on the fertility rate.
All right. And you mentioned several times that there's pressure on the women to prove their fertility and to keep proving their fertility. And so I can see how this campaign was shaped around IUDs and how they might fit into their lives and their values. But could you give us a rundown of where that pressure to have children came from? Was it culture? Was it religion? Was it from their husbands? And was that at all addressed, or is it even advisable to address that pressure at all in a campaign like this?
It's actually the critical topic, and you're touching the point of the social norms related to family size, and how can we tackle this? This I can say is a taboo when we talk about limiting family size and limiting the number of children. What I can say here is that you have to understand, to get into the deep roots of this social norm, the structure of the Jordanian society. The Jordanian society is tribal. It's based on tribes. Still today, you go out of Amman. Amman is really kind of it's 3.5 million people, but it's more the urban, westernized place. But though the structure, the ground of the society organization is tribal. When you go out, you have Bedouin tribes. So the tribes, the power of the tribe and the status of the tribe is based on the number. Then you get all the chain down of every tribe has to get as much men of the tribe. This is related to the Arab culture of the men of the tribe. So that's why you have the pressure of having children and having male children. It's a rooted cause. It's not easy to tackle, but the world is changing, the society is changing, and we try to kind of push it a bit forward and a bit faster because there is a stake at hold for the whole country development. I can give you a funny anecdote. In Jordan, literacy is very high among women. 95%, I think, 95% of women are literate. And there is a good proportion of them that have secondary education level and even college degree, college level. But the labor force, women in the labor force are not more than 15%. And we discovered through also these discussions, these interactions with women. I will give you a very shortcut. Basically, the degree is part of the package of a bride. When a woman goes and she has someone coming asking for her hand, the father would say, oh, she has a master's. Master's means not that she's going to work and help you for the household income, but she's going to be a good mother, able to raise your children and your sons and make them well educated. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating to change this perception and position this as, hey, this is your tool. You can have another status in society. You can be enhanced by bringing money to the house. You can be enhanced by being active in the public space. And that's why we come to a topic we didn't raise here, which is women empowerment. And we are working on this currently under the JCAP project.
Yes, and it would be interesting to hear what are the planned follow-ups for this and, next steps that you have in the works after this.
So we're tackling the difficult parts now that are social norms, we're talking about reducing family size. We're really getting into the terminology that was a bit avoided before, reducing population growth, because it comes into a broader perspective of country development, and we need to have population aware of this challenge and also higher level stakeholders. That's why in the current project we're not only working on SPCC but also tackling policy and advocacy for smaller family size. So this is the topic that we're going to tackle. We're in a targeted way. We will also address more the first crowd, the first segment of the newlyweds, that it was like nobody could go there. They will have children as soon as they get married anyway. And we believe we can also change this. Go with the move and we can change this.
Mm-hmm. And just to wrap up, you sort of touched on it, but just to be explicit, that it seems that men are not part of your target audience, the husbands, the partners. So why was that choice made not to include them as part of the campaign in a more explicit and active and direct way?
Mm-hmm. We had a very interesting couple counseling study we conducted under SHOPS for, you remember the household visits that we're doing this program. And we found out during this couple counseling that actually, yes, we have to address men, that men can be, and they are, we found out that they can be strong supporters of family planning because they are the one, feeling how it can hurt on the wallet and the financial side and the economic side of raising too many children. The difficulty we had, and that we're working on actually currently, is the access to men. And here we're coming back to the religious gathering. Men gather in the mosques on Fridays. They gather in coffee shops a lot too. So we're trying to find the good channels for men. Initially, when we were discussing about these edutaining lectures, the idea was like we're bringing couples. Let's bring couples, families. And we found out that this could be it would be too risky. A lot of feedback came that we should make two separate types of edutaining lectures. We went initially with the women, but in these coming campaigns, we think about having gathering with men only.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much. I think this has been a fascinating and really engaging presentation on an inside look at how you have to balance all the different nuances of the demographics and population growth, as well as culture and religion and social norms and health delivery services. There's just so much that has been packed in here, and to see how it all works together from an inside point of view, which you've been able to give us through your expertise and involvement, I think that's just been absolutely fascinating, and I think it's been a wonderful addition to our webinar series. So thank you very much for preparing all this for us and talking us through. I think it's been insightful for all of us, and we just appreciate it very much. And this will be available on our archives for others to listen. So spread the word if you know anybody who didn't make it today, that this is certainly a very interesting and worthwhile webinar to listen to. So thank you again very much, Huda, and all the best with future work on these campaigns and other ones. And I'll pass it back to Jay.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you all.
Thank you, Huda. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, all of you participants in today's webinar. As you leave the webinar today, you'll be offered the opportunity to fill out a short evaluation form. And we just appreciate, even if you've done this before, let us know how today went. You don't have to spend long. Give us some feedback that will help us see how we're doing and how we can improve things for you in the future. Our next webinar is The Donor is in the Details, the common ground between social marketing and donor behavior, with Lucia Barros, January 2016. And finally, thanks to Wynn, who's helped make these webinars an important part of ISMA's member offerings. Wynn, over to you.
Well, Jay, it's been a pleasure working with you and Tamara to be part of the webinar. You make it seem easy, but I know you spend a lot of time on this, organizing the program, and we really appreciate it. And Huda, thank you for a great glimpse into tackling unspoken behaviors. I like the way you brought up both unspoken behaviors and the use of co-creation. I think it's a great use of social marketing, great application for family planning in Jordan. I think it has a lot of other applications for women's empowerment coming up. And I hope we can have you back for another webinar in our future webinar series. Huda?
Thank you. I will certainly do. Thank you, Wynn.
And to our members and to our participants in today's webinar, thank you for your continued support and participation. We hope to see you at the next webinar, The Donors in the Details, in January 2016. And until then, keep visiting the ISMA website, share your events on our calendar, exchange resources, keep up with our Career Center, and keep up with the news. Until then, this is the International Social Marketing Association. We now conclude today's webinar.